Good evening. We begin tonight with the tragic loss of a young life. A 6-year-old boy struck by a school bus in Vaughan this morning.
The incident happened while other children were on the bus. The unthinkable suddenly a reality, leaving a family and a community heartbroken. CTV's Raheem Ladani is live at the scene tonight in Kleinburg. Raheem, such a sad story. What have you learned about what happened?
Nathan, good evening. I can tell you that a short while ago, friends and neighbors have confirmed to us that the young boy who was killed this morning, his name is Mateo, and he was in grade 1. Over my left shoulder, you can see a small but growing memorial as people continue to come this hour to pay their respects to young Mateo. Laying a bouquet of flowers, a teddy bear, and saying a prayer, neighbors are offering their condolences for a young boy taken too soon.
I used to see him going up and down with the scooter, but I didn't know him. My granddaughter's 6 years old, so it really hits home for, I'm sure, a lot of people.
As family and loved ones mourn their inconceivable loss, police are investigating how a 6-year-old boy was hit by a school bus just before 8 Tuesday morning.
York Regional Police responded to Pierre Burton Boulevard and Kleinburg Summit Way for the reports of child being struck by a school bus. The 6-year-old boy suffered fatal injuries and unfortunately was pronounced on the scene.
The bus came to a stop around 100 meters after the collision. The driver did remain on scene after the accident, and one neighbor says they heard the driver performed life-saving measures.
I heard the school driver, when immediately happened, she was trying to do CPR on the child.
Another witness who did not want to be on camera describes the child as chasing after the bus.
He thought the driver was leaving him. His boy is small. So the bus driver didn't see him, and he ran on the ball.
Collision reconstruction experts spend part of the afternoon recreating the bus's path. However, say it's too early to know if speed was a factor, although many in the area say it's a well-known problem.
Truthfully, this Kleinburg Summit Way, cars are ripping up and down here. And they're coming pretty fast.
As the afternoon school buses drop students home right by the accident scene, it's a reminder of how close to home this tragedy is. This roadway has now completely been open. It was closed for over 7 hours most of the day after the accident. And speaking with neighbors, they also tell me that here in Kleinburg, members of a community group are working to set up a vigil for Mateo, but details for that have not yet been finalized. Reporting live, I'm Raheem Ladani. Nathan, I'll send it back to you.
To Monday's tragic triple shooting inside a North York office. New insight. We'll hear from the widow of the man responsible for taking 3 lives, including his own.
A scary scene for shoppers in Brampton last night. Heavily armed officers with guns drawn making a dramatic arrest in the parking lot of a plaza. It was the ending to a violent scene that began at Vaughan Mills late yesterday afternoon. That's where we find CTV's John Musselman tonight with the latest. John.
May have been a targeted shooting and that the victim may have known the accused man arrested in this case. This viewer video shows 2 suspects being arrested by Peel police at a Brampton shopping plaza parking lot last night. Police say they were allegedly wanted in connection with the shooting death of a 21-year-old woman who was gunned down in the parking lot at Vaughan Mills Mall yesterday evening just before 5:30. This witness says she saw the victim on the ground.
All I saw were the cop cars coming in, the ambulance coming in, and I saw a lady that was just out in the parking lot. She was laying on the ground, and it looked like she was passed out, but I didn't know it was a shooting at that point. It's scary. It's scary to know that that would happen in broad daylight, and it's in the shopping mall parking lot.
Police have now identified the victim as Alicia Golar Kotlar of Hamilton. Police say 2 Brampton men have been charged in connection with this case.
Courtney Ashton Brooks, 23 of Brampton, has been charged with first-degree murder. Dante Morris Taylor, 23 years old of Brampton, has been charged with accessory after-the-fact to murder. The relationship between the 2 accused and the victim are not known at this time, but we do believe that they are known to each other.
Police say this was a targeted killing and there are no other outstanding suspects or vehicles. The motive remains unknown. Investigators confirm the woman's car was taken from the scene, but it may have been used to flee the parking lot. Police say it's too early to confirm any other details.
And investigators say they still want to talk to anybody who may have seen what happened here in the parking lot or if they have dash cam video. You're asked to call York Regional Police. Reporting live, I'm John Musselman, and I'll send it back inside to you.
All right. Thank you, John. Time now for a check on the forecast. Here's another live look at the city. It is cooler by the water, but still another hot one close to record-breaking territory. When will this heat wave end? Jessica Smith now with the answer. Jessica.
Probably not until the weekend, and even then we're just dropping out of heat warning criteria. We are about a degree or so away from matching a record set back in 1995, but regardless of whether we match it or exceed it, it is still really hot. We're looking at some pop-up showers out towards Waterloo Region and down through London, but overall still dry here in the city. Obviously still under those heat waves right across southern Ontario, no change there, and we're holding on to that heat warning criteria right through to the end of the week. Right now we are still at 34, feeling like 42, and it's the same really right across the Golden Horseshoe. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast when the heat breaks and when we can expect some active weather. Right now, I'll send it back to Nathan.
All right. Thank you, Jess. Coming up on CTV News, the latest on a transit tie-up that's blocked some of the city's busiest streetcar routes and made for a long commute home for many. But first, a Toronto woman is speaking out tonight, grieving over the loss of her husband.
And while she isn't justifying his horrific actions, she's also trying to understand why he shot and killed 2 people earlier this week before taking his own life. CTV's Mike Walker joins us live with the latest. Mike.
Well, Michelle, Nathan, Elisa Pogorlowski is reeling. She doesn't justify her husband's actions, but she describes him as humble and says the 2 victims were believed to be part of an alleged fraud scam that defrauded their family.
He was hugging me, saying that he loved me and he's sorry for everything.
That was the last time Elisa Pogorlowski spoke to her husband, Alan Katz, on Monday, before he shot and killed 2 people they believe were behind an alleged mortgage investment scheme that defrauded their family.
He just couldn't believe that we was scammed for all our money. He was in depression, he couldn't sleep.
54-year-old Arash Misagi and 44-year-old Samira Yousefi were killed Monday afternoon in an office near Vaughan Mills and York Mills before Katz took his own life. Court documents reveal that Katz and Pogorlowski had sued the 2 victims as well as a number of other companies and individuals after losing $1.28 million to a syndicated mortgage fraud. The statement of claim alleged Misagi is a prolific fraudster. He has been involved in sophisticated fraud involving mortgages and real property in Ontario, and that Samira is also an associate of Misagi and in conjunction with Misagi knowingly assisted in carrying out fraud against the plaintiff. Court documents also revealed the couple were contributing to an investment fund by releasing equity from their home. A recent court document on the case ordering Misagi and Yousefi's assets frozen described the scheme as an elaborate ruse to obtain the plaintiff's money.
Just one day the payment check come back, declined.
Pogorlowski and her husband owned a construction company. She says they received partial payments on their investments but lost their life savings and their home.
It just destroyed me, destroyed my family.
It wasn't until yesterday that she discovered a note from her husband.
My death is on the hands of Samira Yousefi, Aras Misagi.
Explaining his actions on Monday.
Nobody has taken any life away. Nobody has permission to do that. It's very bad. But as I think he was just broken. I think what happened on a Monday, he just go and try to protect his family.
Pogorlowski adds that she hopes that her family will be able to recover from this one day and move forward. In the meantime, she does plan on continuing with the legal action. Reporting live, I'm Mike Walker. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Mike. There have been major delays throughout the day for TTC passengers downtown after a streetcar derailed at the intersection of King and Church.
That led to other issues which has affected streetcar service on a number of routes and made for a difficult commute home for many. CTV's Janice Golding is live at King and Church tonight with the very latest. Janice.
Hi, Nathan. The TTC says about 85,000 people ride these routes. And while not everyone has been impacted by the derailment, many people have had their commutes lengthened today. And if you take a look behind us here, you can see that there is a lot of work that continues to try to get this streetcar back on the tracks. There were a lot of people hoofing it today on King near Church. People whose commutes were derailed by a streetcar derailment.
Actually, I have to go to the lecture right now, so it's going to be late.
Just came out of the office and saw nothing moving.
So how long a walk do you have ahead of you?
I'm actually going to take an Uber because I have an appointment that I have to get to.
The TTC says a switch malfunctioned this morning and a streetcar that was attempting to turn right onto Church from King went off the tracks. Staff had to bring hydraulic lifts to the site to hoist the streetcar inch by inch back to the right track. A lengthy process which created lengthy commutes in less than ideal weather.
Maybe 20 minutes. Not the best, but you know.
What's it like in this heat?
Not wonderful. Not wonderful, but you know what? It is what it is. Things happen.
I got to find a different route. Right?
What's it like in this heat?
It's not healthy.
But it's just hot. It's just too hot today, man. I just want to take the streetcar, you know, has AC in there, right?
Just 2 weeks ago, very nearby, a streetcar derailed on Frederick and King following a collision with a vehicle. And those who live and work in the area seemed resigned to today's issues.
This is a regular thing with the TTC, right?
I'm not surprised. I really don't know what happened here, but it looks familiar at the same time.
I laughed. I mean, there's nothing you can do when you work downtown.
As the TTC deals with the issue, the 501 Queen and 504 King streetcars are on diversion, and shuttle buses are supplementing service on the 503 Kingston route between Sumac and Spadina. No one was injured in today's incident. However, in the incident at Frederick and King, there were 3 people taken to hospital, 2 of them passengers. Reporting live, I'm Janice Golding. Now back to Michelle.
Thank you, Janice. Commutes today were also impacted for GO train riders due to the sweltering heat. Metrolinx issued slow orders across much of the network because rails can soften and expand in the high temperatures. Some train trips were delayed or modified or replaced by bus service. The transit agency is advising riders to check their online schedules for all the latest details.
A busy stretch of the westbound 401 express lanes is back open after a fiery crash early this morning prompted an hours-long closure. Flames lit up the sky just after 5 in the morning on the 401 near Leslie. Provincial police say a tractor collided with the highway barrier, prompting the closure of the highway from west of the DVP over to Leslie. Most lanes reopened to traffic at around 1:30, with the exception of the transfer lanes from express to collectors. The driver was taken to hospital with minor injuries, and the cause of the crash is still under investigation.
Meanwhile, fire crews responded to a 2-alarm blaze at a commercial building in Scarborough overnight. It happened in a single-story building on Progress Road across from the Scarborough Town Centre. The flames were extinguished and an investigation into the cause is underway. There are no reports of any injuries. To the courts next, where arguments began today over the encampment protest at the University of Toronto.
The university is seeking a court order to allow for the clearing of protesters who've been on campus for weeks. CTV's John Woodward has more.
Almost 7 weeks in, the dispute over the encampment on the University of Toronto campus has moved to Superior Court.
The university today is asking this court to restrict students' charter-protected rights to assemble, associate, and express themselves.
Out front, students and their representatives said the encampment should stay on freedom of speech grounds until their demands are met for the university to divest from companies they believe are profiting from Israel's offensive in Gaza.
Getting a court order for a permission slip to call the police on us is not a solution. Attacking freedom of speech and the right to protest on campus is not a solution either.
And inside a 4th-floor courtroom, university lawyers described what they called irreparable harm resulting from the encampment. They described reports to campus security of violence, a fence that blocked public space, graffiti inside and outside they said prompted an alumni to withdraw a scholarship, and impacts on convocation events for more than 6,800 people. In one affidavit, a Waterloo professor, James Diamond, said while wearing a kippah, he was told to go back to my country, you will never get by me, followed by a string of vulgar expletives, calling it a most humiliating, insulting, and offensive encounter that has tarnished a treasured relationship with my alma mater. The Toronto police have opted not to act on the encampment. University lawyers pushed for an injunction, telling the court, our hope is to permit protests to occur on the University of Toronto campus as they have always occurred, without the harm that we've gone through up to today.
The University of Toronto would rather sue its students and threaten them with arrest and a violent police clearing instead of looking internally at its own complicity.
Even as the hearing continued, the university said it received a new offer from protesters to end the encampment and responded with its own counteroffer. John Woodward, CTV News.
Trustees at the Toronto District School Board will be meeting this evening to consider a new Combating Hate and Racism Strategy report. A board committee meeting last night saw the policy passed 5-3 over the protests of some members of the Jewish community. Parents, students, and faculty called on the board to do more to fight anti-Semitism. Organizers said the new strategy doesn't do enough to address what they call unprecedented levels of hate-motivated incidents against Jewish students. A group representing Palestinian and some Jewish families welcomed the policy's explicit naming of anti-Palestinian racism.
Toronto police are investigating digital messages scrolling on the side of a cube van as a possible hate crime.
CTV's Heather Wright has the details.
This video posted online shows a cube van playing a video. It asks, is this Yemen, Syria, or Iraq? It then shows Muslims praying, followed by, wake up, Canada, you are under siege.
What this van was advertising, trying to suggest that Canadian Muslims and communal prayer are something that is threatening, that is dangerous, that is something to hate.
Amira Al-Gawabi is the federal government's special representative on combating Islamophobia. She says the message on this truck is not free speech. She says it stokes fear among Muslims and is just the latest example of hate directed toward minority communities.
We've seen a 500% increase in both Islamophobic and anti-Semitic narratives online, for example. So we know that there are those bad actors as well as those who are just simply engaged in very ignorant and racist kinds of narratives.
Across the country, hate crimes are on the rise. In Toronto, 190 alleged hate crimes have been reported to police so far this year, with nearly half of them anti-Semitic.
Let's be clear, there is a crisis of anti-Semitism in this country. And now it's time to act. Words are not enough.
It's not clear who has organized and paid for this truck. Toronto police say they are aware, and the hate crime unit is reviewing the video.
With any alleged hate crime, whether violent or non-violent, police are encouraging people to file a report. In the case of this truck, they are asking anyone with pictures or video to come forward.
Heather Wright, CTV News.
Toronto police have identified the man killed in a hit and run in the West End earlier this month. Police say 48-year-old Stuart Costigan was in the Roncesvalles and Dundas area at around 5:15 in the morning on June 6th. They say he was struck by a dark-colored Volkswagen GTI and did not survive. Investigators say they believe they've located the suspect vehicle. They're now hoping to hear from members of the public who may have been in the area at the time of the crash. Anyone with information is asked to contact traffic services.
20 people are facing nearly 300 charges as part of an investigation that targeted a street gang in York Region. 18 guns were recovered as part of the 14-month-long operation dubbed Project Lookout. Investigators with York Regional Police and other agencies also recovered more than $2 million worth of drugs, as well as $245,000 in cash, luxury vehicles, and high-end watches. The probe was launched last April and focused on a group accused of being involved in firearms and narcotics trafficking.
We believe that the firearms seized during this investigation were ultimately going to end up in the hands of offenders who are going to use them in shootings, carjackings, and other acts of violence. The cocaine seized during this investigation has been analyzed as well. It was found to be between 89% and 97% pure, which suggests that the arrested suppliers are linked to the highest levels of organized crime, cocaine importers.
Toronto Police, Peel Police, and the OPP and the CBSA were also involved in the operation.
The oppressive heat affecting more than 20 million Canadians from Ontario to Atlantic Canada has rarely been seen this early in June. Health Canada says that makes it more dangerous because people are often not prepared.
It's an early event, and people, they're physiologically, they're not acclimatized, and this can actually affect certain populations more than others. So, older adults or seniors may have more difficulty acclimatizing, and so they're more susceptible to heat illness and to heat death. And I think some people, when it happens early, can catch people by surprise, perhaps with some of the behaviors. They're not, you're not back into the mode of preparing for when heat events occur.
Environment and Climate Change Canada says the heat wave is similar to the worst ones usually seen in July and August. The high humidity and relatively high nighttime temperatures are making this week's weather especially grueling, and many people are not able to cool off for an extended period of time.
The federal government is listing Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps as a terrorist entity. The group is responsible for shooting down Flight PS 752 more than 4 years ago, killing 55 Canadian citizens and 30 permanent residents. CTV's Mike Lecouteur reports.
By declaring Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps a terrorist organization, Canada can now charge anyone who has supported the group either financially or otherwise. The move comes after years of pressure from opposition MPs and members of the Iranian-Canadian community.
This action sends a strong message that Canada will use all of the tools at its disposal to combat the terrorist entity of the IRGC.
The IRGC is a branch of the Iranian armed forces that answers directly to Iran's supreme leader. 4 years ago, the organization admitted to being responsible for the downing of Flight PS 752 just over Tehran. All 175 passengers on board were killed, including 55 Canadian citizens and 30 permanent residents. The families of the victims say they're happy with this move, but they would like to see those responsible for the crime charged here in Canada and sanctioned.
During this journey, it's important for us to see that the perpetrators of this crime has been punished in some ways.
In 2019, the United States designated the IRGC a terrorist group, and many wonder why it's taken 5 years for Canada to follow suit.
I'm told that there's literally a monthly review by the security agencies of different entities around the world and whether or not the threshold has been met and whether or not they're in a position to recommend to the government the listing under the criminal code.
Now, by taking this decision, the government admits there is a heightened risk for Canadians in Iran. So their message for residents of this country is to not travel there. And if there are Canadians in Iran, you should come home. Mike Lecouteur, CTV News, Ottawa.
NATO's Secretary General has arrived in Ottawa and is urging Canada to meet the alliance's defense spending guideline.
It's always easier to spend money on health, education, infrastructure, and many other important tasks than to invest more in defense. And that's also the reason why, when the Cold War ended, European allies, Canada, reduced defense spending because tensions went down. But when we reduce defense spending, when tensions are going down, we have also must also be able to increase spending, investments in our security, when tensions are increasing and are high as they are today.
Upon his arrival, Jens Stoltenberg received an award in recognition of his efforts to maintain peace and order. The Secretary General later said meeting the 2% defense spending goal is important for the collective security of NATO. The alliance says Canada is expected to spend 1.37% of its GDP on defense this year. Stoltenberg is meeting with Prime Minister Trudeau this evening.
And hours before the Secretary General arrived in Ottawa, there was a troubling development in North Korea. Russia and North Korea have signed a partnership that includes a vow of mutual aid if either country is attacked. The announcement was made following a meeting between Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin in Pyongyang. The West is concerned about a possible arrangement in which Moscow would receive munitions for the war in Ukraine, and North Korea would get economic assistance and technology that could enhance its nuclear weapons and missile program.
In the Middle East, Israeli forces advanced deeper into the western part of Rafah today. Some displaced Palestinians in a nearby camp are packing up and leaving following Israeli attacks today. Residents and Palestinian medics say 8 people were killed. Medical sources also say 9 people were killed when an Israeli strike hit a group of people elsewhere in the southern Gaza Strip as they waited for aid trucks.
The latest attacks happened as the UN Human Rights Office released a report saying Israel may have repeatedly violated fundamental principles of the laws of war.
Israel's choices of methods and means of conducting hostilities in Gaza since the 7th of October, including through the extensive use of explosive weapons with wide area effects in densely populated areas, have failed to ensure that they effectively distinguish between civilians and fighters.
The report details 6 emblematic attacks involving the suspected use of bombs on residential buildings, a school, refugee camps, and a market. The deadly strikes occurred from October 9th to December 2nd. The report also notes that unlawful attacks against the civilian population may also implicate the commission of crimes against humanity. Israel accuses the Human Rights Office of bias, saying it didn't have full information.
In Greece, firefighters and water-bombing aircraft have managed to tame a large wildfire on the outskirts of the capital. The blaze is now largely contained, but crews will remain on alert all evening to stop it from reigniting. The fire started in a sparsely inhabited area about 30 kilometers south of central Athens. It appeared to have been deliberately set. There were no injuries. There's been some damage, but the full extent is not yet known. The blaze is one of dozens all over the country right now.
It is Juneteenth in the United States, a federal holiday commemorating the emancipation of enslaved African Americans. A march was held in Texas, which officially declared Juneteenth a holiday in 1980. At least 28 states and the District of Columbia now recognize it as state holidays. Juneteenth is a combination of the words June and 19th. It commemorates the day in 1865 when a Union general arrived in Galveston to inform a group of enslaved African Americans of their freedom under President Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation. Juneteenth became a federal holiday in 2021 when a bill was signed by U.S. President Joe Biden.
Here at home, Canada Day is less than 2 weeks away, and the latest data shows our nation is growing. Stats Canada says the population topped 41 million on April 1st. It grew by 0.6%. That was a gain of more than 242,000 people in the first 3 months of the year. The increase came as Canada welcomed more than 121,000 immigrants in the first quarter. The country also added nearly 132,000 non-permanent residents to the population.
Coming up, a looming strike at WestJet has started to disrupt travel plans. The airline cancels flights as maintenance engineers prepare to walk off the job.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, many people use social media websites to buy and sell items, and you can find some great deals. But be careful if you're asked to click on links that are sent to you. A mother trying to sell a baby item was just scammed out of $6,000. I'll have my reports just ahead.
More heat on the way tomorrow, so if you want to spend some time outside, maybe hit up a patio, it'll be a great day to do so, but you have to factor in sun protection and hydration to enjoy the time outside safely with another UV index tomorrow at a 10. Coming up, I'll have your full forecast, and stay with us. We've got another full night of great shows for you right here on CTV.
Many people use websites like Craigslist, Kijiji, and Facebook Marketplace to buy and sell used items, and occasionally you can find a bargain.
But accepting payment for things you sell can sometimes be tricky, especially in a time when you have to be careful you don't get scammed. Here's Pat Foran and Consumer Alert. Pat.
Nathan and Michelle, thank you. A Toronto mother was selling a baby item and found a buyer who agreed to pay for it. He sent her what she thought was an e-transfer, but it was actually a link to a fake website which drained her bank account of $6,000.
It looked very legitimate. It caught me off guard.
Amanda Mazada Sosa of Toronto was selling a diaper genie she no longer needed and put it on Facebook Marketplace.
I was selling a baby item. I just had a baby 8 months ago, so I had a couple of duplicates from my baby shower.
Not long after, someone contacted her to say they would buy it for $40 and send her an e-transfer.
I'd be happy to send you a deposit. So I said, okay, great. I'll send me the deposit and I'll hold the item for you.
Amanda received what looked like an e-transfer link and clicked on it.
I punched in my card number and my password and I pressed sign in. As soon as I pressed sign in, it redirected me to another page.
But after she did that, the website kept refreshing over and over again, and eventually the payment did not go through. Later, she noticed someone hacked into her accounts and had stolen $6,000.
So right away, I logged into my account and I noticed that he completely wiped out my money, like took everything. He left nothing in my daughter's account, who's 8 months old.
These scammers, again, are getting more sophisticated, and especially now with AI.
The Better Business Bureau says criminals are manipulating links in text to take you to fraudulent websites that look real, and then they steal your information.
It took her to a website that looked like her bank. So she didn't question it. And as I said, these scammers are getting sophisticated, and they know what those websites look like.
Luckily, when Amanda complained to her bank, they agreed it was fraud and refunded her money.
I got my money back, thank goodness.
But she wanted to warn others to be careful accepting e-transfers from strangers.
We're just out here trying to help other moms, and I just want everyone to be aware of what happened to me so it doesn't happen to them.
And if you're concerned about accepting an e-transfer when selling something, consider meeting the buyer in person and taking cash. It's advisable to meet in a public place like a police station. If they won't do that, chances are it's a scam. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
A steamy Wednesday indeed, and we skirted so close to that record today. I mean, really, we could have broken a record, but just a degree or so shy.
We were almost there. So the record set back in 1995. I'm not sure we were doing it in 1995, but it was 35.5 degrees. So we were almost there. But we have set some records across Southern Ontario already. And as we settle in towards the end of the week, I'm sure there are more to come as this heat dome hangs out with us. Weather is brought to you by Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train. We've cooled down, I say that almost jokingly, by about 2 degrees. We were 34 within the last half hour. Now we're at 32, but it still feels into the 40s. We had a humidex value around 44, 45 early this afternoon, and it has just been one of those sweltering days. That dome of heat continues to push into Northern Ontario, and there's really no change as we head through the overnight and into the day tomorrow. Tonight, 23, feeling like 29. We should be at 14, and we are still nowhere near that for the next 3 to 4 days. And right across Southern Ontario, we're holding on to a lot of that humidity, and the wind, although becomes northerly tonight, which would typically be cooler because that arc in the jet stream is so high, we're just pulling in hot air regardless. Into the day tomorrow, another warm one, really no surprise, 31, feeling like 39, and we still have humidex values into the 40s right across Southern Ontario. All the heat and humidity, prompting a few pop-up showers here and there, and we're looking at a rainfall warning now towards London and Kitchener through Waterloo region, and they've got a bit of a downpour there. They could see up to 40 millimeters with wind gusts for this kind of window of time in the next few hours, up to 80 kilometers an hour. This is all thanks to all this heat and humidity bubbling up those pop-up showers and thunderstorms. And when they do come, they are intense but brief. As we head in towards the rest of our evening, we're looking at a relatively calm start to our night. Again, those pop-up showers kind of making their way in. They move out relatively fast. Into the start of the day tomorrow, again, pretty cloudy out there. And then as we head into the afternoon, peaks of sunshine before right around 3 o'clock, mostly to the kind of north and west end of the city. We'll see a pop-up shower. The downtown core might miss it, but it moves through quite fast. And as we head into the early evening, we are looking at just another really hot night ahead of us. Getting into Friday, again, the almost rinse and repeat forecast. We build up all the heat during the day, and then it ends with a bit of a storm into the evening, and these pop-up showers kind of are not out of the question as we wrap up our Friday and step in towards the weekend. That heat really isn't going anywhere. By contrast, again today, single-digit highs in northern Alberta. For us, we started our day off in the 20s. We don't really see a reprieve from the heat until we get in towards the weekend. We kick off the summer season tomorrow officially at about 4:50 p.m. and then we hold on to that heat right through until honestly Monday of next week. So there isn't really much in the way of extreme relief. We do drop out of heat warning criteria this weekend, but we don't really see a return, although it's only one day until Monday, back to where we should be. Nathan.
All right. Thank you, Jess.
Thanks.
Also tonight, we catch up with a mobile health clinic taking steps to provide much-needed foot relief for those who live on the street. For many of us, a fresh pair of socks is something we take for granted.
But a mobile health clinic in downtown Toronto says it's actually an important part of health care. Here's CTV's Pauline Chan.
It's a welcome stop by this mobile health clinic, and it brings free socks and more to those in need.
That we give out that are quite popular are
underwears, as well as socks and other hygiene products.
Foot care is quite important, especially for people living with diabetes. Unfortunately, diabetes has become a worldwide epidemic.
Chiropodist Nicola Bartley says diabetes is common and often not well managed among their clientele.
The cost is supposed to surpass cancer care, and associated with that is lower limb amputations. So unfortunately, a lot of times, due to poor circulation or, neuropathy where people can't feel their feet, they end up with sores that don't heal, and then that becomes an amputation. Many times people have never even had their feet checked. A lot of people either cannot bend to see their feet, or they have issues with their eyes because of diabetes, or sometimes they have so many other issues such as housing, transportation, accessing food, that their feet are the last thing that they think about.
The mobile health unit provides primary care as well as harm reduction services.
The main clientele for our mobile clinic are our homeless and marginalized clients in the Toronto area in Parkdale, as well as our seniors clientele as well.
And increasingly, nurse practitioner Ray Makaraeg says people who do not have a family doctor also come to the truck.
One of the barriers to getting primary care is transportation. So let's get rid of that barrier and go to the clients. Since January 2021, we've actually increased our access to our marginalized clientele. To the point where this mobile health clinic has provided services up to 9,100 encounters.
The mobile health clinic keeps a series of regular stops around Parkdale so clients know when and where to find them.
It's equipped for basic diagnostics, and staff can quickly refer patients for additional tests. It can even stock vaccines if booked ahead of time. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
The province is advising seniors of soon-to-be expanded eligibility for a pair of low-income support programs. Starting in August, the Ministry of Health will increase the eligible income level for its seniors dental care program and its seniors co-payment program for prescription drugs. The cutoff will jump from just over $22,000 for single Ontarians aged 65 and up to $25,000. The threshold for couples will go from $37,000 to $41,500. Eligible seniors can apply starting July 1st.
Pixar's Inside Out 2 continues to break box office records after a slower first half of the year for the movie industry.
You make Riley happy. Sadness makes her sad. Fear protects her from the scary stuff she can see, and my job is to protect her from the scary stuff she can't see.
Deadline reports the animated sequel achieved the highest number of ticket sales ever for an animated movie. Inside Out 2 brought in just over $29 million US across North America yesterday. It had already claimed this makes the strongest global opening by an animated film of all time.
A sequel is in the works for a cult comedy film from the 80s.
Yogurt! I am the keeper of a greater magic. The Force? No, the Schwartz.
Spaceballs is a parody of Star Wars directed by Mel Brooks. Now, Brooks has confirmed he's working on the sequel with Amazon and MGM Studios. Josh Gad is set to star, and Spaceballs got a lukewarm reception when it premiered back in 1987. But it's since become one of Mel Brooks' most popular movies.
The realm's only hope is in a leader strong enough to unite him.
And not long after the debut of Season 2 of House of the Dragon, Variety reports production is officially underway on one of the several other Game of Thrones prequels in the works. A Night of the Seven Kingdoms also takes place before the main series. It's adapted from author George R.R. Martin's novella, The Hedge Knight.
Canada's rental reality.
Royal LePage is releasing its 2024 report promising eye-opening data for Canadian renters and those in pursuit of home ownership.
CP24 Breakfast, where Toronto gets its everything every morning.
The 6-year-old boy suffered fatal injuries and unfortunately was pronounced on the scene.
Updating our top stories, a boy is dead after being struck and killed by a school bus early this morning. It happened in a residential area in Kleinburg during the morning pickup run. Witnesses say the child, who was in grade 1, was chasing the bus at the time he was struck.
Nobody has taken any life away. Nobody has permission to do that. It's very bad. But as I I think he was just broken. I think what happened on a Monday, he just go and try to protect his family.
The widow of the man who shot and killed 2 people inside a North York office on Monday before taking his own life is speaking out. Alyssa Pogorelowski says she and her husband lost their life savings in a mortgage investment fund and were in the process of pursuing legal action against the 2 victims.
I laughed. I mean, there's nothing you can do when you work downtown.
But not quite a laughing matter for many transit riders today after a streetcar derailed in the intersection of Church Street and King Street. The derailment stopped traffic in the area for much of the day and has led to streetcars on several routes being rerouted or replaced with buses. Remember to keep up to date day and night through our website, ctvnewstoronto.ca, and by downloading the CTV News app. And if you ever have a news tip, photos or video of breaking news, let us know.
Despite a win on inflation, it looks as though Britain's Conservatives will soon be booted out of office. Andrew Bell of B&M Bloomberg has the latest in business.
Hello there. Britain's beleaguered Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, is claiming credit after inflation dropped to 2% for the first time in 3 years. But his Conservative Party is headed for a wipeout in the election on July 4th, according to 3 major polls. A survey for the Daily Telegraph found that the Tories are on track to win just 53 seats, an all-time low for the 190-year-old party. Sunak's government has increased alcohol taxes and raised the minimum wage, which increased costs for pubs. So dejected Tories have to pay more to drown their sorrows. On the markets, the Canadian dollar was at 72.94 US cents, up a fraction. WTI oil, North America's benchmark, changed hands at $81.46, down 10 cents. Western Canadian Select oil traded at $66.46, up $1.46. And the TSX Composite, which hit its lowest since February, ended the day at 21,516.9, down just over 94 points. That's the latest in business. I'm Andrew Bell of B&N Bloomberg.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
Thousands of WestJet customers are being forced to make other arrangements after dozens of flights were canceled.
The airline says the move reduces the potential for stranded passengers with a possible strike set to begin tomorrow night. CTV's Kathy Lee has the details.
The airline maintenance engineers are picketing for a better contract. They want better compensation, better benefits, and better working conditions. This looming strike is going to have a massive impact on air travel. WestJet already canceled flights and parked some of its planes. By early afternoon today, 40 flights had been canceled, which impacted about 6,500 passengers.
Very disappointed because we were hoping to get home and, earlier, and now we won't be getting home till 1 o'clock tomorrow morning. So we're a little shook up.
I'm wondering if I should actually get on the plane, because if that gets impacted, then I'll kind of be in jeopardy to miss my job. So
this morning, the maintenance engineers held an information picket at major airports across the country.
I think with government, with the companies, with industry, and then also labor, this group has been suppressed, not only just here at WestJet, but throughout the industry.
This happened after the group almost unanimously rejected WestJet's first tentative agreement, and then 98% of them voted for a strike. According to WestJet, it says the aircraft maintenance engineers are the highest paid in the country and were offered a take-home pay increase of 30 to 40% in the first year in its proposed agreement. However, the union representing the engineers say that's mostly already promised money and includes some retirement funds. WestJet says it's waiting on the Canadian Industrial Relations Board to intervene to bring the two groups to arbitration. About 670 workers are poised to walk off the job as early as Thursday night. Kathy Lee, CTV News, Calgary.
Just ahead, it's a sign that represents the road traveled by our Indigenous ancestors. The City of Toronto unveils a symbolic new street name in a special ceremony.
Finally tonight, a street near Woodbine Beach has a new name. A First Nations drumming ceremony preceded the unveiling of Mdabimuk Avenue, formerly Lower Coxwell. The renaming is part of the city's commitment to honor Indigenous languages and placekeeping.
The name points to the history of this land. It highlights Anishinaabe culture and tradition. It's a reminder for anyone who travels on this road that Indigenous people lived on these lands for thousands of years before us.
Mdabimuk runs from Queen Street to Lakeshore Boulevard East.
We are into the evening hours now, but not much in the way of relief.
No, it's still in the 20s as we head into the evening with the humid index values in the 30s. So if you're going to spend some time outside, hydration is so important. As we head into the evening, we are watching some pop-up showers, and that's prompting some statements out towards London region through Waterloo region, and we're looking at the potential of 40 millimeters as we see a bit of a downpour take place. Again, there's that line of showers. You can see it right there. They are fast and furious, but they can be very serious. Temperature-wise, it's still obviously very hot. It still feels like 42 here in the city, and not much is changing. The good news is we at least drop out of heat warning criteria as we head into the weekend. But tomorrow we officially, although it already has kind of felt like it, welcome in the summer season. And looking ahead to Monday next week, seasonal.
Has officially arrived. Thank you, Jess. That's it for us, but be sure to join Omar Sachedina tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Zoraida Allman with our next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and online at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Jessica Smith and all of us here at CTV News, thank you for watching and have a great night.